Kyiv District, Ukraine, planet Earth. I've conjured up a sheet of stainless steel. And while the manufacturers of the sheet metal are baffled by the magic of the ancient Ukrainians, I continue the quest for the creation of the Mandalorian armor. This is the way. The thickness of this sheet is 1.2 mm, equivalent of the thickness of medieval armor. It might seem like too little, but the fighting armor of manlings was 1.2 mm thick. With that, full armor weight around 20-25 kilos. This is a T-shaped upper part of the breastplate. I make it a bit curved without separating it from the sheet. This way it is easier to make the triangular rolling on the upper edge. But before that I need to planish everything nicely. I can start working on the triangular rolling without heating, but the further bending of metal needs fire, so let the fiery content begin. Here are 3 steps so your triangular rolling is successful. First, I shape a sharp step of the future rolling. I use the sharp edge of the anvil to do that. You can clearly see why you need the hammer with such a long hammerhead. Second, I take this device that is clenched in the vise and I give the correct inclination and the plane to the next side. The first rib that formed between the sides of the triangular rolling is planished straight away. Then I draw the line of the second rib, which disappears from the heat. In the third stage, I replace the device with a sharp chisel and start to forge the line of the rib without heating. Then I rub the edge with the heating of steel. At this stage you need to be careful because at some point you will lose the opportunity to planish the first 2 sides of the rolling. But as you can see, nothing is impossible or overly complicated. If after my videos you haven't learned to make armor, then I don't know how to help you. In some cases it is incurable, maybe it's better for you to become a blogger or designer, at worst you can go to IT. Meanwhile, I separate the part from the extra pieces of steel and start working with the chest parts. A little magic of the ancient Ukrainians, and I have in my hands a sheet of stainless steel 1 mm thick. Gandalf, the greatest magician of the Middle-earth, is a little shocked by such content, because he can only beat the goblins with his poking stick. I've been making armor for almost 20 years in this century. Therefore, I invented secret methods of work. This is what I call the power of the boob. If you can't do it, you are a wimp. But don't worry, next I will show the method that is available to ordinary people. First, give a slight even convexity to the future chest in a large pit. Then go to a small pit and forge the curve along the drawn lines. Then move to a small oval hole and give a clearer and more expressive shape to the future rib. And finally you go to the chisel and shape the edges of your detail. The boobs of the Mandalorian male are ready. The next in line is the production of the abs. Everything is just as simple here. Bend the sheet a little with your hands, then go to the pit and strike out a bulge with a hammer with a round hammerhead. The main thing is not to overdo it. The lower part of the detail will have a smooth curve outward. To have such a shape you need a tool and a hammer with a concave cylinder surface. Such hammerheads will effectively stretch the metal into the desired shape. And finally, replace the device at the horn and planish the entire surface. As you can see, there is no magic and therefore no one will want to burn you at the stake as a sorcerer or a witch. In the Middle Ages, these morons were afraid of curses and magicians, and today they are afraid of biolaboratories with fighting geese. God, how sick is that? But thanks to the armored forces of Ukraine, I can make content and you can watch this video. So let's move on. I use a resin hammer with an arrow striker and a chisel to forge the shape of the muscles and some stiffness ribs. It is necessary to hammer along the marker line, but the striker of the tool that is underneath should be placed a little to the side. And if you can touch the device with your fingers, it will also help you clearly place the work surface of the part on the device. I'm finishing forging all the lines and ribs, and removing the extra pieces of steel that were planned as a reserve. This is always the case when patterns are made from scratch. Patterns will be posted on Patreon. I will bend a small side along the lower edge. It is more comfortable to bend the torso with it, and also it will add rigidity to the detail. This is the way. The result is such a Mandalorian musculature. Hints of the Greek style nicely complement the armor of the Mandalorian. So, I decided to add an armored skirt. This will increase the area of protection and make a reference to the ancient Greco-Euro-reptilians. Part of the plate will go under the armor of the abs, therefore I shape it similarly using strikers in the form of the concave cylinder. For uniformity of a bend, I rivet from outside and inside. I do the same with the other two plates. The details of the skirt will be partly assembled on rivets and partly on leather straps. This will achieve the mobility of the elements. The skirt will be made in 2 rows. The top row will have 3 plates, the bottom 5. On each piece of Mandalorian armor there is a constant element, the vertical dent with edges. However, here I will move away from the cannon in a way I consider would be best for the functional medieval style armor. I will make this shape raised from the surface. Such dents are very harmful and usually the armor is done in a way so that the weapon would slide to the side. The exception is the way to the most vulnerable areas. For example, the triangular rolling effectively stops the tip of the weapon that is sliding up on the surface to the throat. During the work with the calipers, I would strictly advise sticking to the safety rules. If you'll scratch like that, you have a chance to catch a lethal thing to your head. It will get damaged from such marking, but I have old calipers which I can spare. I've marked 4mm with calipers from the edge of the chest details, and I'm making a simple rolling. While moving, the arms often touch this edge, so it is better for it to be rounded. I'm making 4mm cutout. The chest piece will be connected to the abs with the help of a sliding rivet in this cutout. This is a fully medieval method of assembly. Without it, when the torso is bending forward, the upper part of the breastplate will press against the throat, which will limit the mobility of the fighter. The bottom row of the plates of the armored skirt will also have rolling. When the leg is raised, the thin edge can catch clothes or armor. Moreover, it looks nice and will add stiffness to the plate. Here is how the surface looks before polishing. Every time I catch myself thinking that I like this surface more than a polished one. The next project will be a helmet of Vampire Hunter from Skyrim. I'll try to use just a forged surface here. Subscribe so you don't miss it. The part of the breastplate that was done without heating is easily polished, but such triangular rolling needs additional work. It's not possible to start with a big petal disc here. So, I am smoothing out the edges and ribs of a protruding parts with an angle grinder and a 60 grain disc. There will be a phrase in Mandalorian etched on the breastplate. Today is a good day for someone else to die. This phrase will be placed on the chest plate I am drawing on right now. On the triangular rolling there will be a phrase, "This is the way." I really hope the fans of Star Wars will appreciate my attempts to make it better and more interesting, although I am afraid that they will get some hate for such deviation from the original. This is the way. The upper parts of the breastplate will be brass-plated, the same as with the helmet and the shoulders of the Mandalorian. I am also using a brass brush and slight heating of the surface. The metal should be heated so that it becomes a bit yellow, then you can start working with the brush. I clench the detail in the vise with several layers of old leather, so as not to damage the shape. You can't always see it, but I work in headphones all the time. Very loud sounds of work can damage hearing a lot. Here is a life hack for those who do renovations at their home. You can't hear the screams of your neighbors in good headphones. This is the way. The last detail is brassed, and next in line is to assemble all the parts. This job is easy and boring. I remember how in the Middle Ages we used underage apprentices for such work. Those were the good times, and today there are superstitions about child labor, and you also have to pay? Unacceptable. For the Honostick Reptilian to survive, they have to teach manlings about how to make armor. So learn, you will need it. The assembly of the breastplate is partly done with sliding rivets and partly with leather straps. Everything is like in the Middle Ages. I'm using the magic of the ancient Ukrainians to save some time. Everything is done. And now, attention! Remove your wife's daughter and girlfriend from screen. This is 18+ content, sexy, brutal, erotic armor, functional Mandalorian armor made in the medieval style. Everything is working, moving and protecting. If you like this content, then your task is to force your friends, relatives, cat, dog and stranger in a dark alley to watch this video. If you don't like this content, then set it to play again and again and go about your business. Just now you have seen a list of people who physically motivate me to make a high-quality content. Thank you very much. I transfer the money from Patreon to the volunteers to help Ukrainians.